A calm, respected professional, a routine visit to help a kid at a local precinct, but one officer saw identity as a threat and made it personal. What started as a microaggression spiraled into intimidation, assault, and a campaign to silence the truth. But silence didn't win. Every word was documented, every action recorded, and when one voice stood up, others followed, witnesses stepped forward, the system tried to bury it. But the truth was louder. What happens when a community pushes back, when justice demands to be seen? This isn't just about one officer, it's about what we allow when no one's watching. Would you have stood your ground like Alex did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, tap like, hit subscribe, and keep the conversation going. Alex Bennett checked their watch, sighing softly as the clock ticked past 3. The afternoon sun streamed warmly through the glass doors of the Crestview Police Precinct, painting everything in a deceptively calm glow. Alex adjusted their neatly pressed shirt, smoothing away imaginary wrinkles, feeling the reassuring weight of the professional badge around their neck that clearly displayed their credentials as a social worker. Today had started ordinarily enough. Alex was scheduled to visit a young client, Jamie Reed, a 16-year-old who'd been mistakenly picked up for trespassing near a community park late the previous evening. Alex knew Jamie from their weekly youth group sessions, a bright, sensitive kid who was grappling with a complicated family situation. It was a simple misunderstanding, Alex was certain, one they'd clear up quickly. They had made these visits countless times before, always professional, always routine. Entering the precinct, Alex approached the reception desk. Officer Dana Hughes looked up from her screen, offering a courteous nod. "Afternoon, Alex, here for Jamie Reed." "Hi, Dana." "Yes, Jamie Reed," Alex responded with a friendly smile, placing a copy of their authorization paperwork clearly on the desk. Dana scanned it briefly and nodded again. "You're all set. Interview room 3 down the hall on your left," Dana said, handing Alex back their paperwork. Alex thanked her warmly and proceeded down the familiar hall, passing framed photographs of smiling officers and community awards hanging proudly on the walls. Just as Alex reached the interview room door, a voice behind them interrupted sharply. "Hey, excuse me," Alex paused, turning slowly. Officer Dean Carter stood in the hallway, arms crossed, his blue uniform crisp and immaculate. His eyes, sharp and piercing, studied Alex with barely concealed hostility. Alex recognized Carter immediately. Though they'd never formally met, Carter was a fixture at Crestview, known equally for his commendations and whispered criticisms about his tough, sometimes abrasive demeanor. "Can I help you, officer?" Alex asked calmly, meeting Carter's gaze evenly. "Who authorized you to see that kid?" Carter asked curtly, stepping forward with a presence clearly designed to intimidate. Alex held up their paperwork, professional and composed. "Everything's authorized, officer. Officer Hughes cleared it just now. Jamie Reed is one of my clients. I'm here strictly in a professional capacity." Carter snatched the paperwork from Alex's hand, scanning it slowly, deliberately prolonging the silence. Alex stayed composed, accustomed to bureaucratic delays, though they felt the first stirrings of unease. "Social worker, huh?" Carter said, his tone dripping with subtle contempt as his eyes traveled back up to Alex. "Sure they trust you around kids?" Alex felt the sting of Carter's implication but refused to rise to the bait. Maintaining professional composure was critical. "Absolutely. I have a professional duty and every right to be here. If you'd prefer, we can confirm this with Officer Hughes or your supervisor." Carter smirked, handing back the paperwork slowly. "Just checking." "You never know who tries slipping through these days," he added, his eyes narrowing slightly, the undercurrent unmistakably hostile. Alex took the documents back without reaction, offering a courteous nod. "Of course, officer, I understand your concern." As Alex turned again toward the interview room, Carter's voice stopped them cold once more, this time louder and harsher. "Just keep things professional in there, Bennett. I'll be watching." The threat was unmistakable, hanging heavily in the quiet hallway. A young officer nearby glanced nervously between Carter and Alex, but quickly looked away, pretending not to hear. "I always do, officer," Alex responded, deliberately calm and steady, refusing to acknowledge the intimidation. Carter lingered for a moment, eyes fixed on Alex, a silent challenge in his stance before turning sharply on his heels and striding away. Once Carter was out of sight, Alex exhaled softly, heart thudding a little faster than they'd have liked. Confrontations like this weren't new, but Carter's hostility felt particularly unsettling. Alex mentally noted the incident, already considering how they would document it later. Taking another steadying breath, Alex opened the door to interview room 3, stepping inside. Jamie sat at the table, shoulders hunched, anxious eyes darting up as Alex entered. "Hey, Jamie," Alex said gently, forcing warmth into their voice, wanting to erase the tension Carter had left behind. "Sorry I'm late." Jamie managed a shaky smile, visibly relaxing. "Hey, Alex, thought maybe they wouldn't let you in." Alex smiled reassuringly, sitting calmly across from Jamie, keeping their voice steady and warm. Of course I'm here. Let's just talk about last night. Tell me everything from the beginning. As Jamie began recounting the misunderstanding, how he'd been walking home from a friend's house when officers assumed he'd been trespassing, Alex listened attentively, jotting careful notes. Yet beneath the familiar professional exterior, Alex's mind kept returning to Carter's unsettling encounter. It was clear this wasn't just an isolated misunderstanding or a minor irritation. Something deeper, more systemic lurked beneath Carter's hostility. As the interview concluded smoothly, Alex reassured Jamie they'd handle everything from here. Exiting the room, Alex glanced down the hallway again, feeling Carter's presence like a shadow. Alex knew this wouldn't be the last encounter with Officer Carter. Intuition warned that this was only the beginning of something bigger, something Alex would have to approach with patience, meticulous professionalism, and careful documentation. Gathering their belongings, Alex made their way to the exit, exchanging polite farewells with Officer Hughes. But as they stepped into the warm afternoon air, Alex felt a lingering chill, the weight of an uneasy truth pressing insistently. This routine day had just marked the beginning of a difficult and necessary fight. That evening, Alex sat quietly at their kitchen table, a steaming cup of tea cooling beside a meticulously arranged folder filled with carefully detailed notes. The encounter at the Crestview Police Precinct had left an unsettling feeling lodged deeply within them, but Alex knew clarity and composure were crucial. It was time to document the day's events thoroughly, just in case Officer Carter's hostility escalated. The comforting hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the modest apartment as Alex neatly detailed each moment of the afternoon encounter, Carter's tone, his exact words, even his intimidating stance. Every fact was critical. Precise and unemotional, Alex carefully labeled each note with timestamps and descriptions of potential witnesses, fully aware of the uphill battle these records could soon represent. As Alex finished writing, the phone vibrated softly on the table. Glancing down, Alex smiled slightly. Detective Laura Quinn's name glowed gently from the screen. Laura was a trusted ally within the police department, a senior detective in internal affairs known for her rigorous honesty and commitment to fairness. Alex answered without hesitation. "Hey Laura." "Alex, how are you holding up?" Laura's voice was steady but warm, carrying genuine concern. "Honestly." "Frustrated but determined," Alex admitted softly. "It's hard to shake off what happened with Carter today." Laura sighed sympathetically. "Carter's got a reputation, Alex, off record. He's caused issues before, mostly swept under the rug. Your case won't be easy, but you've got my full support. Did you document everything?" "Every detail," Alex assured her, glancing at the neatly organized paperwork. "I have timestamps, descriptions, and the exact language he used." "Good. That's exactly what we need," Laura said, clearly relieved. "We both know these battles are won or lost by documentation. I'll discreetly speak with Officer Hughes tomorrow, get her perspective. She's fair, she'll back you up." "Thank you, Laura, truly," Alex said sincerely, appreciating the support. It felt reassuring to have Laura's validation amid the growing uncertainty. "We'll navigate this carefully," Laura continued, voice firm but comforting. "I've dealt with Carter types before. The department prefers to look away, but there are limits. We just have to present clear, indisputable facts." "Agreed," Alex replied calmly. "I'm not interested in revenge, only accountability and change. This isn't just about me, it's about ensuring it doesn't happen again." "Exactly," Laura said with determination. "I'll call tomorrow after I speak with Hughes. Keep your head up, Alex, we've got this." As the call ended, Alex felt somewhat lighter. Having Laura's support meant that the next steps, official complaints, navigating departmental bureaucracy, perhaps even media attention, felt less daunting. The next morning dawned brightly, contrasting sharply with the tension that lingered in Alex's thoughts. After arriving early at the youth community center where they worked, Alex greeted colleagues with practiced ease, but their mind remained elsewhere. They knew the importance of maintaining normalcy, not only for themselves but also for the youth who relied on them daily. Around midday, while reviewing case notes, Alex received a text message from Laura. "Spoke with Hughes. She confirmed everything. Carter's already pushing back, be careful." Alex sighed, pocketing the phone. Carter's rapid response wasn't unexpected, but it underscored how delicate the situation was becoming. The warning from Laura was clear: vigilance was necessary. Later, while preparing to leave for a lunch break, Alex noticed Officer Carter's police cruiser parked conspicuously near the community center entrance. Carter sat inside, watching silently behind mirrored sunglasses. Alex felt their heart rate quicken but forced their breathing to steady. This was intimidation, pure and simple, and Alex refused to let it disrupt their composure. Walking purposefully toward their own car, Alex ignored the cruiser's oppressive presence. Carter didn't move, didn't speak, simply watched silently, a subtle yet powerful threat. Once safely inside their vehicle, Alex pulled out their phone, snapping a discreet photo of Carter's cruiser clearly positioned outside the community center. More documentation. Lunch passed quietly, but Alex felt deeply unsettled. Returning to the community center afterward, colleagues remarked nervously about the police car's appearance. They too felt the threat without understanding the full story. "Everything okay, Alex?" asked Angela, a fellow social worker, with a gentle, concerned look. Alex hesitated briefly before nodding. "Just dealing with some departmental pushback, it's under control." Angela didn't press further, though her worried expression lingered. Alex knew she would support them if the need arose. By evening, Alex had spoken again with Laura, confirming Carter's escalating attempts to discredit them within the department, framing Alex as an agitator rather than a professional victim of harassment. "We need to accelerate the formal complaint process," Laura advised firmly. "Carter's narrative is already spreading internally. It'll be harder if we wait." "I'll file the complaint officially first thing tomorrow," Alex agreed resolutely. "We have enough documentation, and Officer Hughes's statement should bolster our position." "Perfect," Laura responded confidently. "The earlier we act, the stronger our stance. We won't let Carter twist this narrative." Alex ended the call, knowing that the battle ahead was about more than personal vindication. It was about systemic accountability. They would have to remain strategic, unemotional, and impeccably professional throughout. As Alex prepared for bed later that evening, they felt a blend of determination and cautious optimism. The path forward wouldn't be easy, and the storm around Officer Carter was clearly gathering strength. Yet with meticulous preparation, unwavering support, and the careful pursuit of justice over revenge, Alex believed they could weather it. Sleep came uneasily that night, dreams disturbed by shadows of confrontation. Still, Alex knew tomorrow marked a critical step forward, a step toward accountability, integrity, and perhaps ultimately change. The next morning was quiet, but tension clung to the air like static. Alex arrived at the Civic Integrity Office in downtown Crestview just after 8:00 a.m. The building was a beige concrete monolith, unremarkable from the outside, but housing departments that could make or break public servants. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead as Alex took a seat in the waiting area with a folder of documents on their lap, organized, labeled, and timestamped. Today they would file the formal complaint against Officer Dean Carter. A clerk called Alex's name, and they were guided to a small conference room where an investigator from internal oversight, a wiry man named Malik Dawson, greeted them. Malik's demeanor was professional, though not particularly warm. "Thanks for coming in, MX Bennett," he said, gesturing for Alex to sit. "Detective Quinn gave us a heads up, said you'd be thorough." "I try to be," Alex replied simply, placing the folder on the table. "Everything you need should be here: written documentation, timestamps, corroborating witnesses, and a copy of a photo showing Carter's cruiser outside my workplace." Malik raised an eyebrow but nodded. "We appreciate thoroughness. Let's go through it." Over the next hour, Alex walked Malik through every detail: the verbal comments, Carter's aggressive posture, the unlawful interference with Alex's professional duties, and the subsequent act of intimidation outside the community center. Malik took notes, occasionally asking for clarification, his tone neutral but attentive. "Did Officer Hughes witness the initial confrontation?" "Yes," Alex said, "and she's confirmed my account to Detective Quinn." Malik nodded. "Good. That gives us something tangible to start with." Once the formal complaint was filed, Alex exited the building feeling a mix of relief and unease. It was done, but now the real test began. As they walked toward their car, a figure standing near a light pole caught their eye. It was Carter. He wasn't in uniform, jeans, jacket, sunglasses, casual, but his posture, his stance, it radiated menace. "Busy morning, huh?" Carter said, casually sipping a coffee. Alex stopped, spine straightening. "I'm not engaging with you, Officer Carter." Carter smiled, a thin, cold grin. "You're making a mistake. This little crusade of yours won't end the way you think." Alex held his gaze. "Then we'll let the facts speak for themselves." "Facts don't matter when nobody's listening," Carter muttered. "You think people like you can come in, stir things up, and not face consequences?" Alex didn't respond. Instead, they lifted their phone, pressed record, and held it at chest level. Carter scoffed, backing away. "You're gonna regret this." "You've just made my case stronger," Alex said calmly. Carter disappeared around the corner, and Alex ended the recording. Shaking slightly, they got into their car and sent the audio file to Laura with a single message. "He followed me, caught him on tape, uploading to the drive." By evening, Laura responded, "Got it, that tape, it's serious, I'm escalating." At home, Alex uploaded the new evidence, organizing everything into a secure cloud folder shared with Laura and now Malik Dawson. They added notes: date, time, location, file size. Each piece of evidence had its place. Order brought control. The following day, Alex returned to work. The youth center buzzed with normal activity, but beneath it all there was a quiet tension. Word had spread Alex's confrontation with law enforcement had become known, at least in part. "You're brave, Alex," Angela said in passing. "Not everyone would go through with this." Alex gave a modest smile, just doing what's right. Later that afternoon, Malik called. "We've opened an official investigation. Your complaint meets all the criteria. I've already scheduled interviews with Officers Hughes and Quinn. You'll be contacted soon for a formal statement." "Thank you," Alex replied. "And the recording from yesterday? Powerful," Malik said. "The fact he followed you off duty adds a layer we can't ignore. We're also pulling precinct security footage from your first visit." Alex felt the tightness in their chest ease just slightly. That night, Alex's parents called. Though they didn't fully grasp the legal intricacies, they offered support. "You've always done the right thing," their mother said. "You don't let people like that scare you." "I'm okay, really," Alex assured her. "It's tough, but I'm not alone in this." The next morning, the first sign of institutional pushback arrived. A reporter from a local conservative news blog left a message requesting comment on an incident involving Alex and the police. The tone was accusatory, the phrasing skewed. Alex didn't respond. Instead, they forwarded the message to Laura and Malik. Within hours, the precinct's public relations office issued a brief internal memo warning staff to avoid media engagement on ongoing internal matters. The narrative war had begun. That week, 2 more officers reached out anonymously to Laura. They shared stories of Carter's behavior, unreported incidents involving excessive force, targeted comments toward LGBTQ+ individuals, and even falsified reports. One officer mentioned an internal complaint from years ago that vanished without explanation. The pattern was forming. Malik scheduled a follow-up with Alex. "We're building a case here, and you're not the only one he's harmed." "It's bigger than you thought," Alex nodded slowly. "That's exactly why I came forward." Before the week ended, Alex received a message from a civil rights legal foundation offering representation. Word had spread and allies were emerging from unexpected places. The wheels were turning slowly but deliberately. And for the first time since that afternoon at the precinct, Alex allowed himself a moment of hope. The next week unfolded like a taut wire stretched to its limit. Alex continued their daily routine at the youth center, supporting clients, attending meetings, maintaining structure. But every hour brought more developments, more pressure, more proof that this fight was both necessary and much larger than they had anticipated. Laura Quinn called again on Monday morning. "We pulled security footage from the precinct. It shows exactly what you described. Carter stepping into your path, getting in your face, pushing you." Alex closed their eyes and let out a slow breath. "Is it enough?" "It's more than enough for internal action. But it won't be easy. He has allies in command." "I assumed," Alex said. "That's why everything is timestamped and backed up." "Smart," Laura said. "I'm setting up a meeting with Malik, you, and a department mediator. We need to build a clear channel for what's coming." On Tuesday, Alex met with Malik again, this time in a larger conference room at the Civilian Review Board's offices. 2 additional members of the board sat in, reviewing the evidence alongside him. Documents were projected onto a screen, footage stills, transcribed quotes, and internal memos obtained by Quinn. "There's a clear violation of departmental conduct policy," said one board member. "And if Quinn's timeline is accurate, the precinct delayed internal reporting. That's obstruction." "There's more," Malik added. "An anonymous officer has now come forward with notes from an earlier complaint in 2019. It vanished under Carter's watch. The complainant was later transferred." Alex spoke slowly, deliberately. "This is exactly why systems must be challenged. There's no safety unless accountability is enforced." Malik nodded. "This is growing beyond just Carter. We're seeing something systemic." The board agreed to elevate the case to the city's Office of Police Accountability. Alex left the meeting exhausted but focused. The threads were unraveling. That evening, a local podcast released a segment titled "When Protection Turns to Prejudice." The piece detailed institutional barriers to reporting officer misconduct and cited anonymous sources hinting at the unfolding case. Though Alex wasn't named, it was clear who the story centered around. The exposure was beginning to ripple. On Wednesday, Alex's inbox flooded. Former clients, friends, and other professionals sent messages of support. Some shared their own experiences with discrimination. One former colleague, a black trans nurse, wrote, "Thank you for doing what many of us were too afraid to. We're behind you." But not all responses were kind. An anonymous email read simply, "You're a liar and an attention seeker. Stop tearing down good cops." Alex flagged it, archived it, and moved on. Threats were expected. Preparation was power. Thursday brought another twist. The youth center director, Olivia Marks, called Alex into her office. "We received a formal letter from the precinct's union rep," Olivia said, her expression tight. "They're requesting your suspension, citing interference in an ongoing investigation." Alex was stunned, but only briefly. "I haven't broken any laws. I'm not interfering. I'm reporting. I know, and we stand behind you, but they're applying pressure." "Let them. We have the truth." Later that afternoon, Laura called again. "Carter's camp is panicking. He's retained a private attorney and is accusing you of professional misconduct. He's filed a complaint claiming you coerced Jamie Reed into making false statements. Alex blinked. That's absurd. Everything with Jamie is documented. Our session was recorded with Jamie's consent. I figured, but it means he's trying to strike first. He knows he's losing ground. Alex opened their case file again, finding the recording. They listened to Jamie's calm voice recounting the night of the arrest. Clear, consistent, honest. They uploaded it to the shared drive. That evening, Jamie's mother called. Alex, I heard there's stuff going on with the police. I just want you to know my son trusts you. We trust you. If you need us to speak on your behalf, say the word. Alex felt a lump in their throat. Thank you. That means more than I can say. By Friday, the media pressure was mounting. A major news outlet picked up the podcast story and began an investigative series on Crestview PD. Reporters now called daily. Alex still didn't respond publicly, but behind the scenes, the evidence continued to stack up. Malik called with an update. We found internal documents showing Carter was warned about discriminatory behavior 3 separate times. Each time his file was cleaned by his commanding officer. That's suppression. Alex nodded. The corruption runs deep, but now it's in the light. And there's more. The department is issuing a public statement on Monday. They know they can't sit on this anymore. Over the weekend, Alex worked late at home, updating files, responding to legal emails, and preparing statements for the next formal interview. They barely slept. On Sunday night, they sat alone in their living room, surrounded by folders, printouts, and half-finished cups of tea. The television played softly in the background. A news anchor mentioned the phrase pending civil rights investigation into a Crestview officer. The screen flashed images of the precinct. The battle was no longer private. Alex leaned back, finally letting the exhaustion settle in. For the first time, they realized how far this had come and how far it still had to go. But they didn't feel fear, they felt ready. Let the truth speak. Monday arrived with gray skies and the scent of rain clinging to the wind. As Alex prepared for work, their phone lit up with a message from Laura, press conference at noon, the department's going public. Alex paused, staring at the screen. It was happening, no longer a hidden file or a hushed conversation. This would be the first public admission that something was wrong inside Crestview PD. At the youth center, Olivia Marks greeted Alex with a quiet nod. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be, Alex replied. By mid-morning, the building buzzed with nervous energy. Staff members whispered in break rooms. A few teens from the program hovered near Alex's office door, sensing the weight of the day. At noon, the press conference streamed live on the office television. Crestview's police chief stood behind a podium, flanked by city officials. We are currently conducting an internal investigation into claims of misconduct involving one of our officers. We are cooperating with the Office of Police Accountability and the Civilian Review Board. These allegations are serious and we are treating them as such. No names were mentioned, but the implications were clear. Alex turned off the screen. The words were vague, diluted, carefully crafted. Still, it was a crack in the wall, small but undeniable. That afternoon, Alex met with Malik again, this time to give a full sworn statement. They walked through every interaction with Carter, every piece of documentation, every retaliatory act since the complaint was filed. Are you prepared for cross-examination if this becomes a formal hearing? Malik asked. I am, Alex replied. Everything I've said is backed by fact. I'm not afraid of the truth. Malik nodded. Good, because Carter's legal team is ramping up. They've filed a request for all your employment records. Alex expected this. Let them dig, I've got nothing to hide. By Wednesday, a coalition of community organizations, ranging from LGBTQ+ rights groups to police reform advocates, released a public letter supporting Alex. It ran in the local paper under the headline, We Stand for Accountability. Hundreds signed. Carter's supporters responded with a counter-campaign, claiming the department was caving to political correctness and labeling the investigation as a witch hunt. Local talk radio fanned the flames. Alex's name was now spoken daily, admired and vilified in equal measure. Laura warned them, expect surveillance, they're going to look for anything they can use against you. That night, Alex noticed a parked car across from their apartment. Same one for 3 nights in a row. They logged the plates, time-stamped it, and emailed it to Laura and Malik. The following morning, Malik sent back, unregistered vehicle, no matches in city employee database, stay sharp. At the youth center, staff began walking Alex to and from their car. You shouldn't be alone, Olivia insisted. Not while this is going on. Despite the fear, the truth was gaining traction. Jamie Reed's mother appeared on a local news segment, calmly defending Alex's integrity and professionalism. This isn't about tearing anyone down, she said. This is about standing up when someone in power crosses the line. Jamie appeared briefly on screen, eyes serious, voice steady. Alex helped me when no one else listened. They made me feel safe. Alex watched the segment alone that evening, tears welling unexpectedly. The courage of others fortified their own resolve. On Friday, Malik called with a breakthrough. We've received 3 more formal statements from within the department. One officer witnessed Carter tampering with a past report. Another saw him verbally harass an LGBTQ plus civilian last year. They're ready to testify on the record. Alex's pulse quickened. This is real progress. It is, Malik said. We're approaching a turning point, and just in time, the city council has requested a closed-door briefing next week. They want to hear directly from you. Alex sat in silence for a moment. A month ago, this had been a quiet professional visit to assist a youth. Now it was a movement. I'll be there, whatever they need. Over the weekend, Alex prepared for the briefing, working with Laura to build a clear narrative, not just about Carter, but about the systems that protected him. They outlined key themes: documentation, retaliation, suppression of prior complaints, and structured it with precision. Sunday night, Olivia stopped by with dinner and a bottle of wine. I thought you could use something other than instant noodles, she joked. Alex smiled genuinely for the first time in days. You're not wrong. They talked late into the evening about resilience, justice, and what it meant to be a public servant who dared to hold another accountable. As Olivia left, she turned back. You're not just doing this for yourself, you know that, right? I do, Alex said quietly. That's the only reason I haven't quit. Monday loomed with new weight, but also new momentum. Truth was no longer hiding in shadows. It was marching forward, one documented step at a time. City Hall stood like a relic from a more optimistic time: red brick walls, tall windows, and marble floors worn smooth by decades of civic arguments and ceremonial promises. On Monday morning, Alex walked its halls not as a visitor, but as someone summoned to speak truth to power. Laura met them at the entrance, a sleek folder under her arm. City Council, waiting on the 5th floor, private conference room. They want a full timeline, evidence summary, and your direct testimony. I've got everything in order, Alex said, lifting a similar folder. Chronological layout, media coverage, witness statements, and cross-reference department records. Then let's make it count, Laura said. The conference room was long and formal, lined with muted paintings and rows of chairs around a polished walnut table. The council members sat in quiet anticipation. Among them were veterans of city politics, some skeptical, some supportive, some unreadable. The chairwoman, Marla Singleton, gestured for Alex to begin. MX Bennett, we understand you've been at the center of a very serious matter involving the Crestview Police Department. We want to hear your account directly. Alex stood calmly. Their voice didn't waver, they laid it all out. From the moment they stepped into the precinct, through Carter's microaggressions, the physical assault, the intimidation tactics, the false claims, and finally the public exposure. They emphasized the timeline, the witnesses, and the systemic failures that enabled Carter's behavior to go unchecked. Councilmember Ruiz leaned forward. Are you suggesting a culture of protectionism inside the precinct? Not suggesting, Alex said. Proving. 3 prior complaints against Officer Carter disappeared from internal logs, supervisors edited records, multiple officers feared retaliation, and only now, with outside attention, is anything moving. Laura presented supplementary files including the surveillance images and witness affidavits. Councilmember Patel flipped through the pages, frowning. This is deeply troubling. Marla Singleton looked up. What would justice look like to you, MX Bennett? Alex chose their words carefully. Justice is transparency, accountability, not just Officer Carter's removal, but a full audit of how complaints are handled and protections for those who come forward. The room fell into heavy silence before the chairwoman nodded. Thank you, this session is adjourned, we'll be in contact soon. Outside the chamber, Laura turned to Alex. That was powerful, you didn't just speak, you delivered a blueprint. Alex allowed a small smile. It's not about me anymore. The next day, the City Council publicly announced the launch of an independent review into Crestview PD's Internal Affairs Division. They appointed a third-party legal team to audit misconduct investigations for the past 10 years. News broke fast. National outlets picked up the story. Hashtags trended. Support grew louder. That same evening, Laura forwarded an email from one of Carter's former academy classmates. It was a statement. He bragged about how he could say anything and the department would cover him. He called it his shield within the shield. It was damning. Malik added it to the case file. We're building something airtight, and now public pressure is on our side. But pressure cuts both ways. That Thursday, a local paper published an op-ed from Carter's lawyer framing the case as a smear campaign driven by activist overreach. They claimed Alex had a personal vendetta and used media manipulation to escalate a minor workplace misunderstanding. Alex didn't respond. Instead, they doubled down on outreach. With Laura and Olivia, they hosted a town hall at the youth center, welcoming community members, former clients, even local officers who wanted to rebuild trust. More than 70 people came. One retired officer stood up and said, I served 30 years. People like Carter make the job harder for those of us who actually care. Thank you, Alex. Another, a mother of three, wiped her eyes as she said, "You gave my son a voice when others wanted to shut him down. That matters." The tide had turned. On Friday morning, Malik sent a final update. The disciplinary board has scheduled a public hearing next Wednesday, open attendance. Witnesses will testify, evidence will be reviewed on the record. Alex took a long breath. This is it. Malik said, all roads lead here. Over the weekend, Alex barely left their apartment. They reviewed documents, rehearsed testimony, and prepared emotionally for what could be a defining moment in both their life and their city's reckoning with its police force. Sunday night brought a moment of quiet. Olivia stopped by again, bringing tea. "How are you holding up?" Alex gave a tired smile. "Tired, but not scared, not anymore." "Good," she said, "because what you're doing is already making change. People see it." The hearing was days away, the city was watching, and Alex was ready. Truth, no matter how heavy, was about to walk into the light. The public hearing drew a crowd that stretched around the block. Community members held signs in support of accountability and fairness, while a small group of Carter's supporters stood defiantly across the street. The tension in the air was thick, buzzing with expectation and anxiety. Inside City Hall's largest chamber, the walls were lined with reporters, lawyers, advocates, and uniformed officers. Everyone had come to see the system respond, whether with integrity or with the same silence that had allowed Officer Carter to operate unchecked for so long. Alex sat in the front row beside Laura, dressed simply but professionally. Olivia was there too, seated near the center aisle. Just behind them were Jamie and his mother, flanked by other members of the youth center community. It was a quiet show of solidarity. The disciplinary board convened at the front of the chamber. 5 members, including Malik, who now wore the heavy expression of someone aware this moment was bigger than procedure. The chair called the hearing to order and explained the rules. All testimony would be sworn, all evidence public, and the proceedings live-streamed. First to speak was Officer Dana Hughes. Her account of the day Alex visited the precinct was measured and clear. She confirmed Alex's authorization, Carter's interference, and the tension that followed. MX. Bennett was calm, respectful, and fully authorized to be there. Officer Carter's reaction was out of line, she said. Next came Laura Quinn. She presented the timeline, the documentation trail, and the internal delays in processing prior complaints against Carter. Then came the video. Grainy footage showed Carter blocking Alex's path, leaning into their space and shoving them backward. The room fell silent. Then another video played, Alex's recorded audio of Carter's parking lot threat. Gasps rose from the crowd. Carter, seated beside his attorney, stared straight ahead. His face was unreadable. When it was Alex's turn, they walked slowly to the witness table. They swore in, then looked up at the board steady. "What happened to me is not rare. What's rare is having the resources, the support, and the courage to keep going when the system expects you to quit." Alex detailed everything again. Their tone was calm, deliberate. They cited the documentation, the pushback, the anonymous threats, and the emotional cost, but they always returned to the facts. Names, dates, policies ignored, records altered. This isn't about a single officer, it's about a structure that protects certain people and punishes those who speak. The board asked questions. Alex answered with clarity and control. When it ended, the chair thanked them. Alex returned to their seat amid quiet applause. Then came the surprise. 2 officers, unannounced, requested to testify. They were allowed. The first was Officer Lena Ramirez. She recounted Carter's use of slurs, his harassment of LGBTQ+ citizens during patrol, and the casual way he dismissed internal policies. He used his badge as a shield, she said, but only for himself. The second, Officer Brian Cole, admitted he once covered for Carter out of fear. He said if I crossed him, I'd be next. I was new. I believed him. "I'm sorry I waited so long to speak." The air in the chamber was electric. Finally, Carter himself was asked to speak. His attorney objected, but Carter stood anyway. "This whole thing's a circus," he said bitterly. "People like Bennett want to make a name for themselves. I've served this city for over 15 years. I've arrested real criminals. You're gonna throw that away over feelings?" His words landed like bricks. The board chair asked simply, "Do you deny pushing MX?" "Bennett," Carter hesitated, "I don't remember it that way." A murmur ran through the crowd. The hearing adjourned for deliberation. Outside, Alex stood on the steps of City Hall. Cameras pointed their way. A reporter called out, "MX, Bennett, any comment before the decision?" Alex looked into the crowd, eyes settling on Jamie, then on Olivia, then on the people who had stood with them through it all. The truth has already been spoken. The rest is just paperwork. An hour later, the board reconvened. The chair read the verdict. Officer Dean Carter is hereby found to have violated the department's code of conduct on multiple counts, including excessive use of force, harassment, and obstruction of internal investigation. Effective immediately, he is dismissed from the Crestview Police Department. Furthermore, this board recommends a criminal referral to the district attorney's office. Cheers broke out, some wept, others embraced. Carter stormed out, flanked by his attorney. Alex sat motionless, not triumphant, just still. Justice had not come swiftly, but it had come. Later that night, Alex returned home to hundreds of messages, texts, emails, calls. They ignored them all and instead stepped onto the balcony. The city buzzed below. Somewhere in that vast sprawl, change had begun. Olivia called just as the sun began to rise. "You did it." Alex shook their head. "We did it, and we're not done." Because truth wasn't a conclusion, it was a beginning, and this beginning had their name written all over it.